The title of this podcast is What Would Life Be Like If I Stopped Doing That? This is something that I think about, I would say fairly often. And what I think about is whenever I'm bothered about something, I ask myself, what would this moment be like if I stopped doing that? So take for example, worrying, which I found that's something that quite a few people do. What if they would ask themselves, how would this moment be unfolding for me? What would the experience be like if I wasn't worrying? If you were like me before I started doing the practice, that wouldn't be a question you would ask. There would be no ownership in why you were experiencing the moment or life the way that you were experiencing it. There was a time back then I projected it on something that was outside of me, something external. There was a reason why I was having this hard time, or I was frustrated, irritated, sad, disappointed. It was something outside of me that was causing it. And in the case of worry, I would ask myself, like, okay, back then, if they would like just be somebody I could count on, if they would be trustworthy, I wouldn't have to worry about whether or not they're going to show up in this relationship, this friendship a certain way, if they're going to come through for me, even with something trivial like picking me up from the airport or showing up on time when they already committed to doing so. I wouldn't have to worry about them. Well, that is putting a lot of un unnecessary pressure on other people when you can't control other people or situations. So what I started to do was say, hey, it'd be great if this happens. That's my preference. But if it doesn't happen, that's going to be okay. I'm going to choose not to worry about that. And I go to bed and sleep like a baby. I remember back in the early days of ToBeRe, I would spend a lot of time trying to dot every I, cross every T about how the upcoming sessions would go. I'd make all these charts and all these grids. I'd laminate things, laying them out for people. I'd be doing a head count to make sure everybody showed up. And if they didn't, the structure of the session will be completely affected and thrown off. Who was doing that? I want to allow someone who was unable to make it cause me to suffer, cause the potential uh, uh, result or outcome that they might not show up or they might not do it the way that I think. I'm going to allow that be what I ruminate about and worry about the next day. I'm giving my power away to that. No, I did that for a long time. I stopped doing that. I was like, okay, I've done what I could. I planned. If the plan doesn't go the way that I hope, good. I'll learn how to be able to handle when things don't go as planned. Because what's the likelihood of that happening again during my lifetime? A lot, often, almost all the time. Things will not meet your expectations. Travel. I don't know anyone who is an adult who flies, a few times, who travels a few times a year, who hasn't experienced a flight delay. But there are some people that get worked up about it all the time. Why not learning? What would that experience be like if you didn't get worked up over that? You'd find something else to do with your time, whether it's call someone you haven't talked to in a long time, catch up on a movie or show, learn something. I got to the point that whenever things were delayed, that I started to appreciate the times, especially when I was in school. It's like I got so much schoolwork I gotta do right now. I gotta write this paper. Now I'm working at Mayo Clinic. There's so many projects I'm working on. I'm like, oh my God, like really? How long are we delayed? An hour, 2 hours? You know how much work I can get done in 2 hours while we're delayed? I was in control of how I wanted to use that time. Or I could just sit and just be. or I could be worked up and bothered by it. So I started to ask myself, what would life be like if I wasn't ruining this moment? It's not your spouse that's ruining the moments for you. You're ruining the moments for yourself. You're doing that. It's not your children. You're doing that. You can't because you can't control them, despite your best efforts. How well you want them to perform in school and get their life together according to you, you can't control that. All you can do is do the best you can as a parent. And hopefully, what you want for them is they're good people, they're happy, and they make a difference in the world, a positive difference, not for some, but for all. That every space they go into, they bless. That's what you want for them. Whether they do that or not, it's up to them. But that's what you want for them. What would life be like that if you stop bothering yourself about your kids not meeting your expectations or doing things the way you think they should be done? Now, it's okay to have expectations, but don't get attached to them. Any suffering that you experience when it coming to those children, you're doing, period. Now, don't get me wrong. I know a lot of friends whose children are having a lot of struggles and challenges. Then if that's going to be the reality of what your kids are experiencing, then you need to learn how to handle that without being bothered inside. And not easy, but anything that's worth doing, worth having, is worth doing. And so I love the title of this podcast, and I think about it all the time. My experience at work when one of our dear colleagues left involuntarily, I remember saying to myself, I remember that not liking the way that the situation was handled. And I thought to myself, like, Keith, if you're not careful, you're going to lose, you're going to lose your enthusiasm for coming to work today. Your mind is going to create a narrative that this place has changed. The values aren't the same. That I'm not safe here. No one's safe here. And that narrative is going to be what begins to dictate your experience at work. Now, let's say that all that is true, that the place has changed, that the values aren't the same that you knew them to be, that no one there is safe. Let's say that some of that is true that regarding job security. What's your alternative? To allow that to influence how you come to work? No, in the face of that, if you don't let your mind bother you, your untrained mind dictate what your experience is going to be, you will have a completely different experience. And that's what I did in that particular situation. I said to myself, what would my experience at work be if I didn't take that thinking on? It would be what it was before, that I'm coming in that place every single day, not to take one thing, but to give. In the face of things perhaps changing, me not understanding situations that are made, that perhaps the security of job security is not what it used to be. In the face of that, I can still choose to give my best. But what I used to do was come to work or come to an experience, come to an event, and my heart wasn't all in. I may have worked hard, but the extra something that each of us has the capacity to bring, to give, wasn't coming with me. So I made a choice in those early days that I was going to approach this in a way that's consistent with what I'd been practicing and learning over the last 10 years. Control what I can control. And what I can control is in the face of whatever's going on to bring my best, to bring Keith 2.0 in the face of that. Things might not have been handled well, you still bring your best. This values may not be what they used to be, or uh, adhered to, he still brings his best in the face of that. Just be non-negotiable about that. And so that's been helpful. So I ask you, whatever it is that you're doing that is not serving you, what if you stop doing that? When it comes to fitness and working out or keeping your word, what if you stop making excuses? What would your reality be like? If it wasn't the alarm clock, or it's too early, or I got to bed too late, or I got too much to do, if you let all those excuses go, you know what you do? You work out more consistently. When it came to food choices, it's somebody's birthday, it's my birthday, I'm tired, I deserve this. What if you stop doing that? And you ate it in a way that was consistent with what you said you wanted for your overall health? What would your health be like? Better. What if I stopped blaming others for what I thought was not working for me? What would that be like? I'd have more love and affinity for other people. That's for sure. I mean, we're embarking on an election season here in the United States. And one thing I'm committed to is, regardless of whatever happens, I want to show up and see every human being in this country out as a friend. Whether they see me as one or not, that's their path. My path is, I want to nurture the human to human connection. I want to spread kindness everywhere I go, regardless of what happens. That's what I have control over. So ask yourself, so I want you to ask yourself, what would life be like if I stopped doing that? Making excuses, blaming others, not showing up the way that is consistent with me being my best. What would it be like? You know what it'd be like? A whole lot better. And I'm working on better.